Hi, Mick here with a heads up before the episode starts. This episode was recorded at the food court of the Village Mall, and if you know the Village Mall in St. John's, you know there's going to be some background noise at this point. If that's not your thing, but you still want to see some awesome pictures of Kevin's Blood Angels and my elves, you can still go to www.twitchybristles.ca or follow me on Instagram at twitchybristles. Otherwise, hope you enjoy the episode, and a big thank you to Kevin for the game, who you can find on Instagram at KevinPrime85. Thanks, and let's get started. So, welcome to Path of Casuals and Filth. My name is Mick, I play Eldar, and this is the show where I hang out with friends and try to get a little less bad at 40k and playing Eldar in general, and other tabletop war games. So the background noise right now is that we're in the Village Mall in St. John's. We just got back here. I'm sitting here with my friend Kevin after we had a game at Noble Miniatures. This is, or should be, the third episode of the podcast. And Kevin, to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Kevin Byrne. I've been playing Warhammer 40k since 3rd edition was new. So,
my hobby is older than most people I know, actually. Which is, I don't know if that's sad or impressive. I'm not sure. But I play 3 separate armies. My main army is Blood Angels. My secondary is, I play a version of a Laytok Craft World's Eldar. And I have a small but functional Adeptus Mechanicus army.
Nice. And with the army that you brought in today, can you tell us a little bit about that army specifically, how you've built them up, how you run them, and even like some of the things that you've done while painting them?
The army I brought today was my Blood Angels, and I greatly favor the Intercessor troop choice. The Primaris Marines have been a great help to Space Marines. Space Marines they're a great starting army, because basically you can wield them like a sledgehammer. You know, they're good at everything. It's hard to make mistakes with them, right? And I usually focus on melee heavy armies, but I don't just have melee. Like, I gotta have my fire support. So that's why I usually have at least some eliminators or maybe some hell blasters. Today I used eliminators because, hey, a sniper in your corner is never a bad thing, right?
Because at the end of the day, long as there's 2 people left on the planet, someone is going to want someone dead.
And they certainly helped today. I think, are they the ones that took down Eldar?
I'm trying to think now. I don't think they're the ones that took down Eldar. It was...
No, they were, because they had a mortal wound.
Yes.
And then their mortis rounds did 2 damage each and 2 got through.
Yep,
right.
that was what did it.
Yeah. Painting-wise, I've been painting for a long time. I've won a few awards in my years doing it. I don't paint them like they're in the midst of a dirty battle. I like parade armor, you know? Very clean, especially black line work between all the armor panels. So I'll use black shade paint between every single nook and cranny on a Blood Angel's armor. I like that big standing out bright red with black separations. Yeah.
But not like slathered all over, just into those recesses.
Just those recesses and almost like cartoon paneling.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I can see that. So the game that we did today, where to start with the game we did today? We ran from the core book, Eternal War, Incursion, Mash and Play. We went with Divide and Conquer, which is basically a scenario where you've got 4 objective markers, You each set up in your deployment zone, and it's a pretty straightforward take and hold situation. For secondaries, I went with one that involved me killing more things than you, which was a mistake.
Grind them down.
Yeah, grind them down. And then I had Assassinate as my second one. Did you have the same thing, or did you have...
I had Assassinate and... crap, I can't remember the name of it. But it's where you need to have...
For the
you need to have
zone control.
One unit in at least 3 table quarters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And the final score, just to spoil it, was 41-0. So we're going to talk about that. So with your army, what did you end up rolling up with, or like how did you go about deploying what you brought in?
When I make an army, I like to make what I call an all-comers list. Basically, it's a force that can handle anything that's thrown at it. Like, if I see... Like, if someone told me you're facing Eldar, like, I won't specialize my force to just fight Eldar. I will take whatever units I want that I think will be useful in multiple situations.
Okay.
So today I took 2 5-man intercessor units with standard bolt rifles. Each sergeant had a special melee weapon of some sort. And again, that leads into they can shoot, they can also fight. I took a Redemptor Dreadnought with the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, which is just a hail of bullets at everything. And I find that's great at taking out infantry, especially. But it can also hit the heavy objects if it can get up to them. Mephiston is always my favorite HQ. He can handle everything, like everything.
Yeah.
He can take his lumps and dish them out as well. I did take a unit of assault intercessors because it's Blood Angels. They want to get in and get into combat.
Yeah.
I took Vanguard. I just flubbed.
Vanguard veterans or Blade Guard veterans?
Blade Guard veterans.
Yes.
Yeah. Blade Guard veterans. Although they didn't really see combat. Yeah. I kept them in the transport right up until the beginning of turn 3. And I probably should have let them out earlier, but then you risk them getting shot to pieces. I took Eliminators, like I said, for fire support. And I put my Blade Guard veterans in an Impulsor transport to boogie them across the board. And I think that was everything I had, yeah.
So, on my side of the board, the 2 HQs that I brought in were Eldrad Ulthrin and an Autarch. The Autarch was set up just with the Starglaive and Shuriken Pistol. And Eldrad had the usual slew of Psychic Powers, Doom, Executioner, Windle Surian. I had 2 squads of Storm Guardians with fusion guns, and one of them had a flamer. Rangers and Shroud Runners, and I also brought in a squad of Howling Banshees and a squad of Fire Dragons, and loaded them up with the Autarch into the Wave Serpent, which was the last thing I brought. And what I was kind of hoping to do was move the Wave Serpent into kind of the middle of the board, spring out with the Fire Dragons and the Banshees, and just have them take down things that they were particularly good at taking down, either like gunline units for the Banshees, things like the Redemptor Dreadnought, of course, for the Fire Dragons.
And boy howdy, did he go down.
Oh, the Redemptor Dreadnought, that did work. He did go down.
Yeah.
That is the one thing that I think went really well for me this game. So I guess with that in mind, let's start with some of the good on your side. What sort of things do you think that you did really well, or what things went really well during this game?
Well, in particular, Blood Angels need to move forward at all times. I did have my fire support. I can fire on the run, but Blood Angels are absolute key when they're fighting tooth and nail. They're in melee.
Yeah.
That is when they're at their best. And constantly moving my units, sometimes running them at the loss of firepower. If you get them across the board as fast as possible. Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised at how quickly some of them actually moved, or how quickly some of them booked it across.
Yeah. Well, Mephiston, he can move 7 inches. Then he can, if he succeeds in casting Wings of Sanguinus, which is a Blood Angel's psychic power,
Yeah.
he can fly 12 inches depth in just the psychic phase. And then he can still charge.
Yeah.
Which I did.
Yes,
And
yes, you did.
I don't think you were prepared to have Mephiston in your face turn 1.
I didn't. I thought it was an odd choice initially when you started to move him forward into my stuff, and then when he started just kind of bouncing that 12-inch distance. Oh man, yeah.
He can boogie.
Yeah, he can boogie, and he can just make a mess of everything on the way in while he does.
Yeah.
On my side, the Fire Dragons I think were good. The Fire Dragons were a good pick, and I think once I figured out that Banshees could work against Mephiston, that was helpful, but it wasn't enough to kind of pull this one back. Other than that...
The Banshees did cut him down. They took 4 wounds out of him.
Yeah.
He had 1 left that he just held on to.
Yeah. He did not want to go down. It was... The whole game was basically Mephiston says no, the game. But as far as things that you did not so well during this game, or things that didn't go the way that they could have.
At the end of the first turn, especially when I'm using Blood Angels, I'm always thinking about killing the enemy first.
Yeah.
And objectives are in the back of my mind. So
yeah.
In the first turn, I pretty much forgot, oh wait, there's objectives I need to secure.
Yeah.
So that I think I could have had a little bit more strength gun-wise if I had remembered that in the first turn.
Yeah.
But in the second turn movement phase, I had to sacrifice some of my shooting for moving my guys into position to take those objectives.
And on my side, I think in some...
Also,
yes.
My smite, I don't even think it did anything the entire game.
Well, to be fair, part of that was the Ulthway thing with denying mortal wounds.
And every time I cast smite, it only did 1.
Yeah.
Every time.
I guess to jump back for a moment to things that were good, and this wasn't something I did good, but Ulthway, I think it's my pick as a craft world. It's something that has just so much different... It's like a Swiss Army knife, and I'm finding it really useful. The bad, on my side, I think part of it was that I wasn't ready for Mephiston, but I think part of it was that I was hoping to kind of swoop through one side of the board and just kind of cut a swath in with the Banshees, the Fire Dragons, and then move things onto objectives. And I don't think that was a feasible plan. I don't think that was a reasonable goal going into this. And also, I think there's better ways to deal with Mephiston than just throwing everything at him, which is what I tried to do. And I've had problems before with splitting fire between too many units and it not panning out. This time I think it was the opposite problem, where I put everything into one unit, and if that unit doesn't go down, then everything on the board is still there for me to deal with the next turn and in following turns.
Yeah.
If I had split that up and maybe gone for some of the intercessors, or if I'd actually gone after the eliminators, it could have been could have played out differently. You'd mentioned before the idea of just slowing Mephiston down. Something like that might not have been a bad way to go.
Yeah, just getting... Because, I mean, Mephiston, if you tie him up...
Yeah.
He only has so many attacks.
Yeah.
Right? So, he can only ever eliminate so many things at a turn.
Yeah.
If you tie him up with, say, a unit of 10 Guardians, I mean... If he charges them and there's still 10 of them left, that's 2 turns. You can tie him up for 2 full turns with the squad of Guardians.
Yeah.
And Mephiston is, I mean, he'll slaughter them.
Yes.
Sure. But they're just guardians.
Yeah, and time that he's doing that is time that he's not taking care of all the other things that are on.
That's time that banshees can move up and charge him.
Yeah.
And the key to taking down Mephiston is eliminate his armor.
Yeah.
You got to get good AP weapons on him.
Yeah.
And if you can, shoot him rather than eliminate him in close combat.
Yeah.
Because he can potentially get back up for another round of attacks before finally dying.
Yeah, and with anything but banshees, because of their ability when they charge, because Mephiston fights first, you've got the problem of, if I charge this in to take care of Mephiston, is it going to live long enough to take care of Mephiston?
Yeah. It's got to be a one and done instead of a lasting. Yeah.
So, as far as any takeaways from this game going forward, is there anything that you found that you noticed during the game that you feel like you can walk away with or use in future games or kind of tie into just how you're playing? Or
this is my first game using the new Armor of Contempt rule for Space Marines.
Yeah.
And it is a big help.
Yeah.
Definitely a big help. Because there was a couple times when instead of just taking away my armor save altogether,
Yeah.
it gave me a 6-up. And I even managed to roll that a few times. And that kept me in the fight a little longer.
Yeah. It definitely takes some of the edge off of shuriken weapons, for sure. Yeah. On my end, what would I do different? I think part of it is maybe I'm playing the objective game too much and not focusing enough on just getting things off of the board. Which is how you play it. It's also how Brittany plays. It's how a few people I play with go about it. It's just like, deal with the problems and then worry about the objective game. So I might start to try and work more of that in. And other than that, if I see Mephiston, I'm just going to try not to panic and, yeah.
There is a new... for Guardian Defenders, you use Storm Guardians this game.
Yes.
For Guardian Defenders, if they're within, I think, 3 inches of an objective,
Yeah.
then they get to reroll 1s on their shooting.
Yeah.
I think if you use Guardian Defenders in this game, and because you were within range of some objectives,
That's true, yeah.
they could have given you a hell of a run
Yeah.
for shooting.
Well, part of the problem with Storm Guardians is that even if you've got the fusion guns and even if you've got the flamers, you only get so many shots otherwise.
Yeah.
Where with Guardian Defenders, I would have had a lot more that I could have thrown out in terms of
A
shots.
10-man unit that can put out 20 shots.
Yeah,
And if you're, like I said, within range, you can reroll those 1s. And
yeah. And if you're, God forbid, getting like the shuriken ability to go off on 6s,
yeah,
that could have potentially been another way to deal with Mephiston. It's just-
my intercessors would have melted at that.
And I think that might be something that I have to look into, because I've been using Storm Guardians for the longest time, and I like having the fusion guns and the flamers, but
Well, I mean, 1 round of shooting from those fusion guns, 2 fusion guns,
yeah,
that basically crippled my impulsor.
yeah,
It cut the movement in half. You put it into the secondary bracket of
Yeah.
functioning, which means that shots were
yeah,
not hitting. And like I said, it went from 14 movement down to 7.
Yeah.
Which really was that's why the Blade Guard veterans did not get into combat at all.
yeah,
And that was after the first turn.
yeah,
So my second turn of movement, that was supposed to move closer to Eldrad and let them come out third turn and assault him.
So I guess it might be more of a kind of situational thing, where there might just be certain games or maps where I look at this and I think, okay, this is where defenders are going to be more useful than Storm Guardians, or where I take one group of Storm Guardians and put them here, and then take one group of Guardian Defenders and put them over here.
You made real good use of cover. Because my first round, I don't think I could see the Guardian.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we do.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, there's There's definitely a few things I think I could do differently, and I think this might mean I'm going to have to paint up my Guardian Defenders again, but we'll see how that goes. And just before we wrap things up, you'd mentioned before that you'd been doing painting for a while, or that you won a couple of different awards. Do you ever post any of your stuff online, or do you have any social media that you wanted to plug?
I have recently made an Instagram account.
Awesome. Okay.
Under Kevin Prime 85.
Okay.
I only have one picture up at the moment because I got to get better at taking pictures. I really do. I need to get a light box. Is what I need. And primarily I'm just using that to put up pictures of my artwork.
Yeah.
That's it. So I need to get on that. And I will pose. Remember I mentioned that philosophical question?
Oh, here we go. The trolley question. Okay.
Now I thought about this for my own army.
Okay.
Have you ever thought of a theme song for your army?
I already have one picked out for each of my armies.
I don't, but I'm interested in your choices for yours.
All right. Okay. So, for Blood Angels, it's Iron Maiden's "Can I Play with Madness?" Which makes total sense if you think about it.
Yep, understandable.
For my Mechanicus,
It's NRG's Instruments of Destruction.
Okay.
It's a bit of a heavier metal song, hard rock.
Okay.
And for my Eldar,
Yeah.
it's Stan Bush, The Touch.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Yeah. Because, man, if you look at Eldar, it's like looking at an 80s hair metal band.
Yeah.
With the top knots and the ponytails, man, you know?
You're not wrong.
It's the aesthetic.
Oh my god, yeah.
Right out of the 80s.
It could be a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
God. I have no idea. I might have to actually take that one away and think about it.
Yeah, right? Makes you think.
It's not a decision I want to make lightly, because I could just pick something in haste.
I took
but
time to think about it. Yeah. Now, I almost picked War Machine by AC/DC for my Mechanicus as well.
that I could also see
makes
fitting,
sense,
yeah.
You know? Or Iron Man by Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig all of your choices, especially, I mean, I'm biased, but especially Eldar.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
And I will let you know when I figure out the theme song for mine. I might edit it into a conclusion of this. I went away, walked in the desert for X number of days, and realized that it was Barbie Girl or something. I don't know. But yeah, this has been great. This was a great game, and thank you for coming out and joining me to record the episode.
It was an absolute great time.
Glad to have you, and I'll talk to you later, and yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for listening to this episode of Path of Casuals and Filth, and a big thank you to Kevin for joining me on the podcast. Intro and outro music for Path of Casuals and Filth is Reef from DJ Cutman's free-to-stream album. If you want to see pictures from these games, or pictures of some of the miniatures work I've done, you can find it at www.50bristles.ca, or you can follow me on Instagram, also at 50bristles. Stay safe, stay casual, and above all, stay filthy.